This is Orange Nation Overtime with Steve Infanti and Paulie Scibilia.
Welcome into Orange Nation Overtime, everyone. Alongside Paulie Scibilia, I'm Steve Infanti, back from the long weekend. Boeheim's Army, though, did not survive the weekend. Knocked out over the weekend in Lexington, Kentucky, against La Familia, a game, Paulie, that they were in control of in the third quarter, still up 3 going into the Elam ending, and just did not execute down the stretch.
Yeah, couldn't get a three-pointer for any of the Cole or Buddy in the end, and it's a fun event, but once it's over for me. But I'm not going to sit here and lament what could have been for Boeheim's Army.
Yeah, it would have been nice to give us something to talk about for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I would prefer they won, but yeah, I'm not going to sit here and criticize any of the players.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah,
they didn't advance.
Short bench, though. No Wes Johnson, no Chris McCullough.
Bad referee.
I mean, there were reasons for it. But just really, it came down to poor execution.
The whole tournament was stacked against them.
And that's tough. You're thrown together, you play a couple of games, and then you got to go execute at a high level with the chance at $2 million on the line. They came up short, and hopefully they can get back at it next year. We did have Mike McAllister on our show today. We normally have him on Mondays, but since there was no show yesterday, we had him on today on a Tuesday, and we led him off by asking for his thoughts on Boeheim's Army.
I still think that they got the reversal of the charge call wrong. I thought that the contact from the Boeheim's Army guard with the push in the back, I thought that was incidental. Didn't think it changed the direction of where the guy was going or put him off balance or anything like that. He was still going to plow into the defender, and I thought it should have stayed as a charge. That said, they had the lead going into the Elam ending. I think they ran out of gas, and at some point their lack of depth up front, specifically at the center position, caught up with them, and was just a little disappointed that we didn't see Wes Johnson or Chris McCullough or Corey Williams at all. I'm not really sure exactly what the situation was with those guys, but disappointing that they signed up, took a roster spot, and then didn't play in any of the games.
If Ty Nichols' intent was to push to create a charge, because it kind of looked like it was the way he extended his, he's got to be smarter than that. Like, don't extend your arm. I think he gets away with it, but just the way that he extended his arm as he pushed, then you leave it up for interpretation. And as you said, the interpretation went against him, and it's tough. I mean, it's a tough call to get on the road, right? I don't know that you're going to get that call, and they just didn't execute down the stretch. And Boeheim's Army is now watching the rest of this thing at home. Moving forward, any changes, any tweaks you'd like to see in this tournament, or anybody you'd like to see on this roster next year and beyond?
Well, I personally am over the Elam ending. Like, I wish they would just go back to the way that basketball is in college and NBA as far as the end of games, but I don't think that's going to happen. As far as the roster goes, Ty's battle was someone I wanted to see play. I've kind of wanted to see Jerry come back and play. I know as the head coach, that's not going to happen, but I've wanted to see if that was possible, and I thought it would have been fun if we could have seen Carmelo Anthony suit up for a game. But there's other guys, like I've wondered would Joe Girard come back or something like that. But part of the issue too is when you get into some of the guys that have left recently in this NIL transfer portal era, there aren't guys that are as tied to Syracuse basketball. And frankly, the program has been down a bit, so that are as good as what some of those past alums that were in this thing and helped get the TBT kicked off. So I think it's just challenging to put together alumni teams with all the transfer portal stuff and everything else, because you just don't have as many guys that fan bases are excited about or loyal to the program and would be good enough to play at that level.
I'm kind of with you on the Elam ending. If the game is close, like if it's like a 2-possession game going into the Elam ending, I want to see him just like play it out regularly. If it's, if one of the teams is down by 8, I kind of like the Elam ending because then it's not foul, foul, foul. It's try to get a stop, score at the other end, try to get a stop and score. But I felt like it did kind of get in the way of a really good game over the weekend. It was a 3-point spread going into the Elam ending. Just I would love to see him play it out from there. I don't know if you can do like a modified, like with under 4 minutes to go. If it's 8 or more, you stick with the Elam ending. If it's close, you keep the clock. I don't know, but I'm with you on that.
Yeah, that would be an interesting way to do it, which depending on the point spread, is dependent on whether you play it out or whether it goes to an Elam ending. That would be an interesting tweak that I wonder if they could do. And if they decide to make that tweak, I think they, instead of calling it the Elam ending, since you just invented it, they should call it the Infanti ending.
I like it. All right, let's switch gears and talk Cuse basketball now. The current guys, and we're coming off of SummerSlam. I don't know that we've talked to you since SummerSlam happened. How important, I guess, first and foremost, is it to do events like this, something unique, something that gets the fan base energized about what they're going to see this year?
I think anytime you can do something to get fans talking about you and anticipating the upcoming season, especially when you're in a situation like you are this year with a new coach and there's renewed hope and all of those types of things, that lends itself more to an event like that having, some sort of meaning. And you're hopeful that 4, 5, 6 years from now, you're not going to be in a similar situation with a new coach, that things will be going very positively. And if that's the case, do those things mean as much? I still think they do a good job hyping up the season to some extent, but I think this year in particular, an event like that probably carries a little bit more weight.
How about the injury to Garway Dual? We saw that his arm was in a sling that night, and then Bayham's Army was sitting behind the bench when Paulie and I were doing the game here in Syracuse. We learned from the SU basketball office that it doesn't sound like it's anything serious, that he's out of action for about 3 weeks or so. Shouldn't impact him at all during the year. Are you concerned at all, collarbone for your point guard 2 months out before the season begins?
I mean, I was when I initially saw it, but the explanation that we've received, that made me feel a lot better about the situation. I think we'll be able to tell how much of an issue this is once they really start practicing and going through, training camp and all of that type of things. If they're going through that, and there's no restrictions on Garway Dual at all, he's out there and, basically as if the injury never happened, I think you're good. But if you get to that point and there's still some sort of restriction as far as what he can't do, taking it a little bit easy, sitting out stretches, things like that, then I'll start to get more concerned. But as it is right now, I'm not really all that worried about it.
Mike, since the last time we talked to you, also a 4-star forward from Florida, Carson Crawford, has put Syracuse in his top 5 with Ole Miss, Arizona State, Providence, and Florida State. What's the word on him? Will he be making a visit to Syracuse? Has he?
He hasn't taken an official to Syracuse, and last I had heard, there hasn't been one scheduled, but I think they're attempting to do that. That's going to be the big key. Is we know that there's already 3 or 4 players that have scheduled official visits to Syracuse, and that's going to tell how this class goes, is how successful they are with those official visitors. So the big key for him is he's already got 2 official visits scheduled. I think Arizona State and Providence are the 2, if I have those 2 correctly. The big key is to get him on campus for an official visit. You can be in the top 5, and that's great, but if he visits 3 schools and doesn't visit 2, kind of gives you a hint as to where his mind is. But if you can get him on campus, then you give yourself a shot.
The most recent rankings are out. John Rothstein put his out within the last 24 hours that I saw. He's got Syracuse 43rd in the country, 7th in the ACC. I know the 3-man weave's got Syracuse 47th overall, so both of them inside the top 50. Does this seem about right to you? Are you a little surprised John Rothstein put him in the top 8?
I am surprised that he had them in the top 8 in the ACC, because it seems like most have them somewhere in the 9-10 range. It seems like that's what I've seen most often. So he seems to be a little bit higher on Syracuse than what some other national people are. But I think that's fair going into the year. There are questions on the team. Now, I think they've got the potential to be better than that, to sneak into the top 5 or 6 of the ACC. But if you end up, as the season ends, at 7th place in the ACC, that should put you in a spot where, depending on how things go in the non-conference, you should be in a decent spot as far as making the NCAA tournament. So I think that's fair with what we know right now, but I still think that there's a higher ceiling if things go the right way for this team.
Do you think it's important for the international guys to make an impact right away? Sibby and, Mark Morano, Mamatovic in particular. Do you think those guys need to be good right out of the jump for them?
I don't know if they need to be. I think 3M, Triple M, whatever we're calling them, I think there's probably a little bit more if you could pick one of the two to be really good and make an impact, just because they've got, multiple other centers, and I'm not sure that they really have a guy based on reputation who can shoot the way that 3M can. So maybe if you could pick one of the two because of his shooting ability, you'd hope that he's the guy. On the flip side of that, they got a bunch of guys that are like 6'5", 6'6". So where is he going to find some minutes? And if you have concerns about the center position, having a guy who's 7 foot, who's a great shot blocker, and from some of the clips we saw seemed to be pretty athletic, if he comes in and is good enough to play right away, how much does that help your team? I understand that argument as well, but I don't think they need to be really, really good right away in order for the team to be good. But of course, if you're a Syracuse fan, you're hoping that everybody is really, really good. And then, Jerry's going to have to figure out which of the guys are going to play and how much, and figure out the rotations.
Two more basketball questions for you. Another one just popped in my head as we were talking there. You said Jerry's going to have to figure out the rotations and who's going to play. I think you and I were both under the impression that Cayenne was likely to come off the bench when Jerry first got the job. Now, in hearing Jerry talk about him, I don't know if you saw over the weekend, but the SU men's basketball official Twitter page is putting out videos of Cayenne just shooting, knocking down shot after shot after shot. The more that you think about it, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'll say this: the more I think about it, the more that I see. I wonder if Cayenne is working his way into the starting lineup. What do you think?
It's possible. I've thought about this too. Like if he does work his way into the starting lineup, then who is not starting? So that would, to me, mean that you either have Tobias in that's not starting, or you have Gavin Doty that's not starting. That's been the biggest thing. Is it's hard for me to envision Gavin Doty, with how well he played last year, his relationship with Jerry and everything else, not starting. But at the same time, given that relationship, if there's someone who could sort of say, yeah, you know what, I'm going to come off the bench and that's fine, and I'm still going to play a bunch of minutes, and everything's all good, given the relationship and that Doty's always wanted to play here and all those types of things, I think he'd be able to handle that. At the same time, they could have a conversation with Tobias and say, look, we got a bunch of players that need to play. You're going to be our primary backup at point guard. So we're going to bring you off the bench, and you're going to be able to play any of the 1 through the 3, and you're still going to play 25 plus minutes a night to showcase yourself for the NBA. So I've kind of gone through some of those scenarios in my head. If I had to guess, I'd still say that Tobias and Doty are starting, but none of those scenarios would completely surprise me.
All right, last basketball question. Sadiq White, John Rothstein's got him among his 5 breakout players in the ACC this year. What would be a good season for him, realistically? What are your expectations for Sadiq this upcoming season?
I think if he has a season where he's averaging double digits offensively, and he's somewhere, like 6+ rebounds a game, and then does some things defensively, like maybe, 1 to 1.5 steals, 1 to 1.5 blocks a game, is efficient, 50+% from the floor, maybe 35+% from 3, even if he's not high volume from the outside. I think situations like that, where that's the type of production he's giving you, because I don't think anyone's expecting him to be like 20 to 25 points a game. But if he's somewhere like 12 to 14 and is efficient, does a lot of those hustle plays that we saw flashes of last year, impacts the game defensively with his long arms and his footwork and all that, I think I would consider that a breakout year for him, because I think that would open up a lot of eyeballs in terms of what his potential could be as he continues to develop.
All right, let's switch gears and talk some football now. Camp getting set to open here in the next week or so. What's your biggest question heading into camp? What are the storylines you're keeping your eye on?
I know we've talked about offensive line a lot in the past, so I'll skip that one for now, even though that is something that I'm watching. But I want to know who the tight end is going to be. Who's going to be the starting tight end? Is it going to be Myers, the Western Kentucky transfer? Is it going to be David Clement, who I know the coaching staff thinks very highly of, but he's got 3 catches in his career and he's going into his senior season? So there's not a lot of production there, at least returning production from Syracuse. Myers had 30-something catches and 3 touchdowns last season. But there were guys that are returning to Syracuse. I think collectively they have 1 touchdown and, a handful of catches. So there's not a lot of experience there in terms of experience at Syracuse. And it's, without Dan Villari there, it's a huge question to me. And then, of course, the other main storyline is how everyone adjusts to a new defensive system with a new coaching staff, new defensive coordinator, a lot of new pieces, especially up front and rushing the passer. So how does all of that come together? I think the quicker that comes together, obviously the better it will be for Syracuse and will play a large role in how good they are.
Last year we kept talking about the schedule, how difficult it was, and we thought that this year might be a little bit easier, but now that we see it on paper, doesn't look all that easy anymore, right? You got all your tough games at home, you've got the toss-up games on the road. How do you kind of compare what you're seeing in 2026 to the schedule in 2025?
It's different in that you don't have you're playing 5 playoff teams from last year, right? I know there's 1 or 2 or whatever it is, but you don't have that, right? Because when you were going into last year, you had the SMU and you had Notre Dame and Miami, and you had all these teams that were in the playoff the year before. So or right there. And that, I think, is what made it so difficult. And then all of those games were also away from the Dome. You think about opening with Tennessee. At least this year, a lot of those bigger games are at the Dome, which I think will help. But at the same time, if your goal is to get to a bowl game, how you do in those toss-up games, the Boston Colleges, the Pittsburghs, even the NC States and those types of teams, how you do in those games is going to determine whether or not you get there. Because we think you're going to beat, the New Hampshire, your FCS opponent. You should beat UConn. If you take care of business against those teams, then you have to do your job in those toss-up games, whether they're here or whether they're away from it.
With training camp getting set to start up for SU football, Paulie, what is your biggest question mark heading into the new season?
Everything, Steve.
Yeah,
we know
a lot of questions.
Yeah, I think the linebackers, defensive backs are going to be good, and Jelly's good. Everything else is a question mark.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of unknowns, certainly. We were going down and trying to rank the top 5 players on this team, and outside of Angeli, there's nobody really on the offensive side of the football that jumps off the page at you. Kelvin Russell would have, but he's dealing with a torn Achilles right now and trying to work his way back. So it's kind of been low key too that we haven't talked about his special teams. Do we know anything about that? Yeah, no, it's fair. A lot of questions that need to be answered early in the season. We only had one interview today. It was Mike McAllister. So we're going to bring you a segment we call Today's Business, where we look at some of the topics going on in and around the sports world, and we brought in Tim Leonard for that, and he led us off by bringing up the new patches that Ohio State is going to use, $17 million a year. We'll let Tim tell you about that as we let off Today's Business.
So the Ohio State jersey patch thing came out this morning. They are signing a deal with J.P. Morgan Chase to have a logo, J.P. Morgan Chase logo patch on every one of their team's jerseys. This is, I think, becoming more and more of a thing. I think we're getting to the point where every school is going to have a logo jersey patch for NIL and revenue purposes. Ohio State's deal is in the neighborhood of $17 million a year. Obviously, Syracuse is not going to net that much, but this goes to show you the levels in college sports here. That's almost their entire rev share budget just from J.P. Morgan Chase in a year.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see, as you said, it's going to be a trend now. They're the first ones to do it, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it trickle into the ACC, and if everybody in the ACC starts doing it. It is one way to. It's interesting because it's one way to earn some extra money, but it's also in some ways an avenue for the schools like in Ohio State to widen the gap, right? Because to your point, Syracuse isn't getting $17 million for for a logo on their jersey. So the bigger brands, the Notre Dames, the Ohio States of the world, Duke basketball, they can. That is one way where the gap can widen even further, I think. But yeah, if you're not doing something like that in the next year or two, you're probably falling behind.
Yes. Do you guys have any guesses at what the sponsor will be for Syracuse?
I mean, the first one that popped into my head was Micron. I think it makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons, and especially if you're talking that kind of money. Wegmans certainly came to my mind as well. I think those are the two that.
But you also got to have a logo that is conducive to being. That's recognizable and small.
Yeah, Wegmans is kind of a long logo.
Yeah, it might be difficult.
Do they have just a W logo?
Like every MLB team's got them, right? Like Motorola and Qualcomm and all that stuff.
$17 million a year that's. I guess J.P. Morgan Chase has done the numbers and they know what they're doing.
Like that. I mean, that could easily be a logo. I mean,
it could.
It just says Wegmans in script. I mean, just
it'd be tough to see. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I mean, it's a 7-letter word. It just kind of Wegmans in script. I don't know. I think it's certainly possible. Let me look at what Micron's logo is. Micron, same thing. It's just their name with a little
Well, everybody's getting creative. Duke's doing that Amazon thing with their game.
I think that fell apart, right?
Just one of the games. Okay. They just replaced the opponent and moved it to a different arena.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So, it's now Texas Tech instead of Michigan.
Speaking of jerseys, Paulie, you wanted to hit Steve on another jersey topic.
The Bills have released their alternate jersey. Yeah, I don't mind the jersey itself being gray. The helmet's brutal.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have the buffalo on it.
Yeah.
It's got to have the buffalo on it.
So I'm not a fan of it. I think, Jeff asked me last night in the news because we showed the uniforms as kind of like our kicker, and then he was like, what do you think of them? As a fan, I never really get into uniforms too much. I don't care what they wear as long as they win. They're probably going to wear it one time, and I don't care. I think that's for the younger generation.
Yeah, I don't care either. But
kids tend to like the new uniforms, and it's another opportunity to go into a store and buy the alternate unis. As a fan, I just want them to win.
The uni is fine with me. You can't change the helmet so much that it's not got the logo.
Well,
on
you see it I think Oregon is a good example where they've taken some liberties with their alternate jerseys and with their helmets. Memphis is another one that's taken liberties with their helmet. I don't know. I mean, you're not supposed to change the colors, and they didn't really. I guess. I mean, they accentuated the royal blue on the helmet. The jerseys are all gray. In case you haven't seen them, for those listening, the jerseys and pants are all gray.
And they've got a blue collar because it's a blue collar city. I like the whole idea of the gray and the blue. I just don't like the helmet.
The helmet is it's a little bit obnoxious.
It's a very bright blue with just a red
royal blue. Yeah, right.
Across it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're getting the best of both worlds. It's a Duke blue with Buffalo's color red on it.
Just needs Vermont green in there somewhere.
It'd be a triple play.
Guys are brutal.
Getting the all double team from us today, Steve.
Jim Root of the Three-Man Weave. My whole job is just to get us back on track in this segment after crazy comments from Paulie.
It's not easy.
Jim Root of the Three-Man Weave, basket under review. We've had him on the show before. He dropped a ranking. He and the other guys of the Three-Man Weave were doing their ACC coaches rankings for basketball. Very challenging, I would say, to rank the 18 men's basketball coaches in the ACC right now. I put the list in front of you guys. He had John Shire at number 1 of Duke. To just spoil the important part, he has Jerry McNamara 15th. Going into his first year in the ACC, behind GMAC is Steve Forbes of Wake Forest, Justin Gainey of NC State, going into his first year as a head coach out of the Rick Barnes coaching tree at Tennessee. He is 17th, and Jeff Capel, who is firmly on the hot seat, is dead last in these ACC men's basketball coaching rankings. Jeff Capel of Pittsburgh at 18. John Shire 1, Ryan Odom 2, Brad Brownell 3, Kyle Smith of Stanford at 4, who continuously exceeds expectations, and Jay Lucas, a relatively new coach going into his second year at Miami, is 5th. It just seems like it's a jumbled mess in the middle. He kind of hit on that in the podcast I was listening to. Hard to really rank this. Does anything stand out about his ACC coaching rankings?
Let me ask you. I know recruiting is part of the process, but Duke recruits itself, right? If you had put any of these other coaches at Duke, would they be any worse than Shire?
I think Shire's tough. I mean, he's done objectively a really nice job, but he's also had 2 terrible chokes and end-of-game situations that's on coaching.
You know, so you ask what stands out. What stands out to me is that there's just so much turnover in this conference right now. Like, I just pulled up top head coaches from 2022, 2023 from the ACC, and it's Tony Bennett, Jim Boeheim, Jim Larinaga. Jeff Capel was 4th on the list, coming off of ACC Coach of the Year honors. And just to see the way that this conference has changed so much in just that short period of time. I mean, that's 4 years, but even, go back 6-7 years.
6-7.
6-7. And, all the coaches that have, all the changeover in a handful of years.
Yeah.
It's remarkable that, Brad Brownell, I think we all look at him, he's very well respected. He's 3rd in these rankings. You go back 5 years and he's middle of the pack to, the
10
bottom
years ago, hot seat every year.
Yeah, right.
It's amazing.
Exactly.
He's the longest tenured coach, and it's amazing that he is the one still standing, if you would have asked me in 2015, 2016. Yeah, Andy Enfield in the middle, which it seems like his teams are always right on the bubble, right in the middle.
Steve Forbes has been credited with being a better coach than his record has shown, just because he's at
just
Wake
a tough
Forest.
place to win.
Yeah.
They're very high, or Jim Root is very high on Scott Cross. He has him 8th, the new Georgia Tech head coach. And then Luke Murray is 9th at BC. I don't know. Luke Murray's never been a head coach, so I think that's a little crazy to put him 9. Scott Cross has been a head coach at lower levels, and he's done a very nice job. So I think he's giving him credit for that.
I'd love to know what Micah Shrewsbury has done that has him 10th on this list, for instance.
I agree.
I would
not a big fan.
If I had to do my order of the top 3, I'd probably go Odom, Brownell, Shire in that order.
Yeah, I think Kyle Smith being 4th is totally fine. I don't think he gets enough credit because he's at a tough place to win. Pat Kelsey in Louisville, he has him 6th. The Louisville fan base seems pretty fed up with him. If he has another year, I mean, they obviously spent big money. They brought in 2 guys that were worth about $9.5–10 million. It sounds like just those 2 from the transfer portal. If he does not make the Final 4, Elite 8, I think the Louisville fan base is going to be quite upset.
If I had to pick one guy on this list I think is going to make a big jump, it's going to be Laux from Florida State.
I thought he could have been in the top 10 already based on last year.
And I think honestly, Jerry's got a chance to make a big jump in these rankings too. I mean, you look at John Rothstein's got SU 7th in the conference. He's 15th on this list. So, if Jerry has a good year, gets his team to the tournament, he's going to shoot up these rankings.
Steve, I would patch on my shirt, every single one of my shirts, and wear it everywhere I went for $17 million. I'm opening that up for bidding right now.
I do it for $20 a day. So a patch on.
Hell yeah.
That would add up pretty quickly.
A lot of I see me.
Yeah.
I walk through downtown every day.
You'd be a walking billboard.
Yeah.
That's why you see golfers do it. You see NASCAR drivers do it.
Baseball teams do it.
It does seem like that is going to be a trend that colleges are going to dip into as well here.
I'll do it for $1 million if you're watching. And you got money.
What a bargain. What do you got for us?
It's all my shirts, Steve. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
National Chocolate Day, milk chocolate.
Okay.
You're not a big chocolate guy, right?
I don't eat a lot of chocolate. I like milk chocolate. Don't eat a lot of it.
National Water Park Day.
Love water parks.
Love a good water park.
I do.
Lazy rivers.
Yeah, sure.
And National Hepatitis Awareness Week. I don't know why a week just snuck in there, but there you go.
Okay. All right.
So be aware.
Very good. And tomorrow's Paul Davis Day on the show. In all seriousness, we will have Felicia Leggett-Jack on our show tomorrow.
Yes.
She'll be joining us and letting us know how the offseason is going for the SU women. With that, we're out of time. For Paulie, I'm Steve. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Download the WSYR Plus app on your TV to stream News Channel 9 for free. Just go to your smart TV, search WSYR Plus in the App Store, and download to start streaming today.